So ladies, gentlemen out there, we've got some new DC Universe updates, one of which I really want to get your thoughts on, actually more than one, down in the comments below with regards to Superman, what James Gunn has had to say. Yes, he's still talking about it. He may have moved away a little bit from Twitter, but now he's gone to the sky of blue. And what I mean is blue sky, which I'm still waiting for my invitation, Blue Sky. Why can't I sign up? And the things he is teasing most certainly stirs up some interesting Superman discourse, some theory stuff, so definitely stay tuned for that part. We have some information on Comic-Con, or a lack thereof, with regards to DC Studios and James Gunn and Peter Safran, and we have James Mangold talking even more Swamp Thing with his somewhat perspective on the way he would execute it on like a basic conceptual level, and I'm dying to get all the Swampy fans' thoughts about that. So guys, if you're into the news of DC, comic book stuff, reviews, breakdowns, this is the place for you. Consider subscribing. I'm sure you guys will enjoy future videos here. And to help me out, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button on this video. It takes 2 seconds of your time. So let's just launch into this. The first thing I want to talk about today, James Gunn posted this original design for Superman, and there's been a lot of speculation out there, and obviously we can't read into this so much, but hey, we like kind of speculating here. And this is something that people have been speculating about for a long time, and that is, of course, Superman's suit. Even though we know this isn't an origin, we know it's not years and years into Superman's career either. He's in his younger years, but he's not quite day one. And I've said this a billion times before as well. I feel like James Gunn is taking the somewhat Matt Reeves approach here with, instead of doing an origin story again, hey, let's do something that is still early on that pertains to the origins of Superman, all without doing an actual origin within the movie and wasting like 30 minutes of the beginning or opening. And Matt Reeves sorted that out with doing Robert Pattinson's Batman as 1 year, 6 months in. He's in Batman Year 2. He's a Batman who's still becoming. Quite literally, James Gunn's Superman is most certainly going to be a Superman who's still becoming. So how do I circle this back to what the Blue Sky post is here? Well, obviously, this is an early design of Superman, and throughout the years, the symbol to other aspects like the trunks, the belt, the cape have all changed. And what will be interesting to see is if one day, when we look back on posts like this, could it be a slight teaser of what James Gunn could be doing with David Corenswet's Superman? And I say that because I wouldn't remotely object to that at all. You know, people out there are going to. They're going to be like, haha, like they're going to look at James Gunn's Superman. Let's just say we had the black crest with the red S. They're going to be like, oh, look at how he's completely screwing Superman over. I mean, Henry Cavill's Man of Steel 2 should have definitely happened. I mean, I'm not saying that it shouldn't have, but you get what I'm saying. They would just keep loading on top of this potential design if we saw it in the movie. But I think that would be, I mean, fair enough if that's their preference, but I just hope it wouldn't be weaponized. If they don't like it, they don't like it. If you don't like Trunks, you don't like the black S, fair enough, you know, vice versa, right? But I think it's a completely valid design for David Corenswet's Superman to have, because since this, even though it's not an origin and it's in his younger years, I wouldn't be surprised if Superman's first suit in the movie that we see him fly around with, because he's still in the early days mode, is a bit of a newbie design. Take Superman and Lois, for example. This suit that you're seeing on screen right now was made by his mother, as per traditional canon, right? It looks newbie. Lots of people love it, but we can't deny it's still pajama-esque compared to the suit that he has in modern-day Superman and Lois, for example. So this is what I mean. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a newbie-esque suit paying tribute and homage to that of the original Superman design. But then maybe, you know, and you can look at this, dare I say it, like Spider-Man Homecoming, right? Starts off with the freaking newbie homemade suit. Same with Superman, but then at some point in the film, maybe, just maybe, he gets a slightly upgraded suit somehow, I don't know, and then that can reflect this post from James Gunn, because I didn't want to dominate this whole conversation with just saying that he posted one suit. He did then go on to post this as well. So this is what I meant earlier by saying we can't get carried away, or like James Gunn posting the black symbol with the red S and the yellow trim around it is definitely meaning that this is going to be Corenswet's suit. No, I mean, again, the second image could be Corenswet's suit, or you could look at it like the Homecoming example I just gave, and how he maybe started off with this early design, the black S, but then as time went on, and as we may see in the movie, he gets more of the traditional Superman suit. I don't know. Or you can look at it, if we want to get into conspiracy territory again, in that the second image could mean that not only are we getting the black S from the first image, but the second image is more teasing of the trunks. We're getting the trunks, or aren't we getting the trunks? This is a conversation that will be happening for a very, very long time. None of us really know. James Gunn has admitted himself that he doesn't know yet. He's still testing it out. So I mean, 1000%, this is his Superman. He is going to be testing out every single design, including the black symbol with the red S, the trunks, everything, the S on the cape, everything you can imagine. He is likely trying out and seeing what fits. Now, to give a shout out to a friend and an amazing concept artist, check his Instagram out. He does incredible work, by the way. You may recognize it from me using it in videos, but here is a look at what David Corenswet could look like from that of the first image that James Gunn teased here on his Blue Sky account. Jackson did an amazing mock-up. Like, again, that looks so good. What I would love to know from you is, through looking at something like this, would you dig this design of the red S, the black background in the emblem there? What about the trunks? Would you like that in combination? It's an interesting thing. I personally, and this is what I mean, everyone is on such different sides of the fence. I personally wouldn't mind trunks if that's what they went for. But at the same time, my preference would be, believe it or not, no trunks. Keep the belt. I wouldn't remotely mind the black background with the red S there. I think that would be really, really cool to pay tribute to the past. But trunks, I can maybe do without. But again, if it's in there, I do need to stress, I'm not going to be like, this is a terrible design. It's still iconic. And once more, I do expect the suit to evolve over time. Now, if that happens in the first movie, I don't know. As we went over earlier, it could happen, like Homecoming example, but it almost feels a bit too cliche to be like, oh, starting off with newbie suit, evolve into like epic suit by the third act. Maybe, maybe not. You could argue that the second suit could appear in the last scene of the movie, being like, okay, here's to the future and here's your new suit. One thing I would say is that I do expect James Gunn, and I could be wrong about this, but I'm low-key calling it now, that he's going to implement some very blatant form of classic Superman. Whether that's, and what I mean by blatant is, whether it is as obvious as this classic symbol, so the red S and the black background, that would be one massive in-your-face, okay, that is different. And obviously, maybe it changes over time into the modern version of the crest there. But at the same time, he could keep the modern crest, but actually have trunks. Or he could do both. But no matter what, I think it's going to be both of them, or one or the other at the very least, for the first suit that we see Corenswet in. But let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know what you think of Jackson does like mock-up of the classic Superman with David Corenswet edited into that suit. It gives you a real vibe of what that could look like, and let me know what you would opt for. But there's only one or two more James Gunn posts to go over, and this is one I was teasing earlier. We have on Blue Sky, yet again, where's my invite, Blue Sky? For those of you who don't know, you have to join a wait list to be invited to join this alternate social media. By the way, we have a user here saying, please use the opening 2 pages of All-Star Superman as his whole origin in the movie. And James Gunn's response to this has been reported everywhere recently as if it's brand new news, and I'm just like, I don't want to be like that fan, like correcting everyone, but it did just feel like, did nobody pay attention almost 7 months ago? Either way, Gunn says, I think we've seen his origin enough in film at this time, right? And he also replied to another fan saying, I'm volunteering myself to play young Clark Kent in Superman Legacy. And he says, there is no young Clark. And here's me seeing all of these outlets on the internet like post, oh yeah, James Gunn's Superman Legacy will not include Clark's origin story. And I'm just posting a tweet from 15th of December 2022, James Gunn saying, also, as I said yesterday, so he said it even before that, I am definitely not doing an origin story. So that was almost 7 months ago now. Why is this news? Again, I'm not trying to sound holier than thou. I just thought that was a fairly easy one to remember from this initial Superman announcement way back then. You know, because it was big. Like, whether you disliked it or liked it because of, you know, the fact we're getting a new Superman, one of the things that stood out to me is that it wasn't an origin. But either way, it's being reported again. It's not news. We know it's not an origin. We do not need that. You're simply not seeing Krypton blow up again. You're not seeing Kal-El's pod crash land and frickin' John and Martha just being like, we're not seeing Clark skip throughout Kansas, and actually instead of skipping, he's jumping entire states. You get what I'm trying to say. We don't need to see that again, but we can still see a Superman super early into his career of being a superhero, but not too late. Again, with Robert Pattinson's Batman, literally not a day one origin, no Martha and Thomas Wayne death, but oh crap, he's only 1 year, 6 months in. He's only in year 2 of his Batman career. That's pretty super early on. He's got a long way to go. It's a brilliant blueprint for these characters, in my opinion, like Batman, like Superman. To put it simply, sure, origins are cool, but at this point of where we're at in comic book films and whatnot, we've been there before. How about we just jump in to a point in his life where he's still early on, but it's not too late. There's a lot of the road to travel down in terms of development, and I think that's a great way to start Superman Legacy, because I think it worked out well for the Batman. Obviously, these aren't tonally the same films, but you get my point. It lays down a lot of foundational development, but also, it can pertain to the past and cool little references maybe, but you're still having a Superman who's still got a long character arc to go on himself across potentially a 10-year DCU plan. So yeah, you've got my vote there. Now up next from another fan on Blue Sky asking James Gunn, do you have any idea what direction you're going in with the score for Superman Legacy? I'm hoping for an epic theme. I mean, of course, who wouldn't want that? And he says, I have more than an idea. We are, as usual, already developing score and taking a unique path. Now, obviously, I can't really say too much about this. We actually heard a while back that he apparently already had a composer. Nobody really knows who it is right now, but he's saying that they're way past the idea stage. They're already developing the score, and they're taking a unique path. So I guess what you can say is unique quite simply means unique. It's not going to be the same as John Williams. It's not going to be the same as Hans Zimmer's Man of Steel theme, which I think is cool. I think we want unique, but I think we also have these other themes that we've fallen in love with. And as I've said, if you can marry the more theatrical, orchestral kind of John Williams with the Hans Zimmer, deep noted, somber, yet also these beautiful vibes to that track, somehow marry them together, I think that would be unique. Maybe there's an argument for how it isn't, but again, I don't think, by the way, that's James Gunn's direction. He's like, I have to marry the old and the new together, but I would love it if he did that. All right, up next is interesting because we have a fan asking from Instagram, I believe, are you going to Comic-Con? And James Gunn replied saying, I won't be there this year, but probably next. So this is pretty crazy. Like, SDCC isn't going to have Marvel there, Sony, I think Netflix, DC Studios won't have a presence. I mean, there are some things that I've seen that are planned for some of their panel-y things, like, a preview of Harley Quinn Season 4 and some, Dawn of DC comic book stuff. So, when you're there at the San Diego Comic-Con event, there's going to be a low-key presence. But, if we're talking, Cool H, mind-blowing things, nobody's turning up to it. And I think it's fair enough. If we're just looking through the lens of DC here, you've got Blue Beetle, that is coming out August. You've got Aquaman 2. Sure, something could be shown around, that point anyway. But as for the DCU, you're working on Creature Commandos, Waller before Superman Legacy. A lot of people thought maybe David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan would be turning up to Comic-Con. And I don't know about you, I just feel like that's way too premature. I get that they were being cast in time for, if they wanted to do that, they could maybe. But if you really, take a step back, are they really going to go on stage? Hey, David Corenswet is just being cast, so is Rachel Brosnahan. We don't really want to reveal anything about the movie, but hey, here's the the new Lois Lane and Clark Kent. I mean, I guess they could have. People probably would have cheered. But do you see what I'm saying? It kind of feels redundant, especially with what else are you going to show? I don't think they would market the new DCU. As I went over in yesterday's video, and do check that out, we go into the state of DC and Warner Brothers and everything. I don't think there's going to be a bunch of that until Aquaman 2 is out and done with. Maybe I'm wrong there, but it just does feel like Why turn up to San Diego Comic-Con if you've still got a couple of movies left to be released from the old era? Granted, they're probably not going to do that great. Are you really going to distract from that even more with more DCU announcements? Maybe you could. Some of you may argue that you can do that simultaneously. We can celebrate seeing Corenswet on stage and Brosnahan. I'm not saying that wouldn't be cool, by the way. It just feels like if you analyze that in like the bigger picture, what else are they going to show? What, a snippet from Creature Commandos, because they've been voice acting for that for quite a while now. All in all, I just feel like, and I think maybe you can agree with me here, there's not enough for DC Studios to go to San Diego Comic-Con for. Now, as James Gunn said, not this year, but probably next, I can see that, because that's when they would have more things to show. Maybe we could hear a bunch more about the Penguin, Creature Commandos, the Waller live-action series. They're already going to be sometime into shooting Superman Legacy, because I believe that starts shooting early on in the year. And I'm not guaranteeing anything here, by the way, but I'm just telling you, if with that original DC fandom, Matt Reeves could put together a sizzle reel that is regarded by a lot of DC fans, that first, the Batman Something in the Way by Nirvana trailer that we got, that is one of the best trailers a lot of fans have seen in years and years. If they could put that together, and these are the key words here, with like only 30 to 35% of the footage shot for the movie, then again, I'm not putting words into James Gunn's mouth, but it would be pretty cool if he had something to show at the next Comic-Con. Seeing Corenswet in the Superman suit, or something like stills from shots that they've got already from the movie, they could easily do that. Again, this is like a predictions video for another time, but by then they would 1000% have something to show. I mean, for crying out loud, for the Batman, we had the screen test for the Batman suit released from Matt Reeves. I keep using Matt Reeves as an example here, but I feel like he did such a good job as showcasing material for his movie that he was excited about well before like things were really, really, really rolling. So imagine if we got like Corenswet in the new Superman suit. And again, I can't really draw these parallels because James Gunn isn't Matt Reeves. So we're not going to get that bloody camera test, that screen test of the suit like we had with Pattinson. But imagine things like that. Like they could have something. My whole point here is the Comic-Con thing next year, right? As you said, probably next. There is easily so much more that DC can announce or reveal at next year's Comic-Con to slowly get those who are apprehensive about the new DCU a little bit more excited, because by then, the DCEU will be gone. Blue Beetle would have come out, which is, as we know, a DCU character. Aquaman 2 will finally be out the way, and then, like, then we're in January, February, March, April. Before you know it, eventually, similar to, like, what we're gearing up to, Comic-Con will come around. There would have been anything significant being released in terms of DC stuff, because, again, all the movies have been out the way. So all there's left to talk about is, hey, oh yeah, James Gunn's DCU is gearing up. They're filming Superman Legacy right now. How about we show them what Rachel Brosnahan and David Corenswet look like as Clark Kent and Lois Lane? And then maybe like 10 minutes later, they have another surprise and they actually show the Superman suit in a similar video to that of Pattinson's Batman screen test. Or maybe not, but you get my point. There's so much stuff they could play with there. And there's other projects that I'm probably forgetting about right now that they could talk about at the next Comic-Con. Whereas right now, sure, you could bring Corenswet and Brosnahan out on stage, but they'll just be like, hi, with the new Lois and Clark, thanks. We're really excited about filming early next year. We'll probably have more things to tell you about our new Superman Legacy movie at the next Comic-Con, but until, exactly. More things to talk about next year. And lastly, for today's news discussion, we have James Mangold talking a lot more about Swamp Thing and the concept that he has going into it. Now, I'm a huge Swamp Thing fan. I know a lot of you guys are, so I would love to know what you think about what James Mangold has to say here. And it starts off by him being asked, you're a Swamp Thing fan, I take it. Does that go way back? And he says it goes way back, and basically, the second I heard that DC was going through some leadership convulsion and James was taking over, I just saw it as an opportunity to throw my hat down in the most. I just called them. And I said, in all the stuff you're doing, if the idea of me making a kind of gothic horror film origin story of Swamp Thing fits in, tell me. And I go, I'm not, and it's no different speech than anyone else gets with me. I don't have any agenda for a universe. I'm not building towards someone joining in some future have at it, but I'd just be interested in doing a version of Frankenstein, basically. And yet I feel like It's Alive has been done enough. Swamp Thing always occurred to me as this wonderful version of a kind of Frankenstein story, much in the way one of my favorite pop films growing up, RoboCop, the original one, was. You know, this guy who just wakes up and he finds he's become some kind of machine. Also, something that I was fascinated with Logan, obviously, but to me, the idea of making almost a kind of noir mystery horror film about a guy who wakes up and he's this thing, there's an amnesiac quality of like, how did I get here? And who did this to me? So I'm envisioning kind of a horror noir film following a creature that can't be seen, trying to piece together from fragments of memory what happened and who did it. Which I think is a very, very interesting approach to take, because that's the thing with regards to Swamp Thing, right? Swamp Thing isn't technically, made up of the human Alec Holland. So when Alec Holland, and this is the getcha of the movie, I'm guessing, when Alec Holland died, his consciousness, if you will, was somewhat absorbed by that of the swamp itself. So when Swamp Thing came to be, the very plant life that made Swamp Thing up was, given Alec Holland's consciousness and memories. So you imagine like you're just being spawned, or me and you died, and then like this plant life woke up thinking it was us, because think about it, it's absorbed our memories. So technically when Swamp Thing wakes up for the first time, it's like, wait, why am I this? I'm Alec Holland, but how did I become this plant monster thing? But the way James Mangold somewhat describes it is like throughout that journey of initially waking up, most of Alec Holland is maybe there, but there's this amnesiac quality to it. He describes it in how he doesn't remember everything. So maybe he has to go round to different parts of the swamp or something, maybe different areas that have more of Alec Holland's consciousness or memory dosage, or just something that unlocks a bit more to the origin of how his human body died, if you will. And the thing about Swamp Thing, it is such a tragic story because, again, Alec Holland literally died. Technically, Swamp Thing isn't Alec Holland all while he is. It's a weird situation. So the continuation of Alec Holland is now in this plant life matter, if you will, as this being who walks around perceived as this monster, this swamp thing, but with the memories of this man who passed away. But at the end result, he's connected to the green, he's super powerful, and he's a Chad. So what can I say? So overall, I do like that concept. I don't blame him as well of talking about how to him it would seem more standalone, even though Swamp Thing is set within the larger DCU. He says, I don't have any agenda for a universe. He personally wouldn't be building towards something joining in the future, but he does say have at it. But for him, it's this opportunity to explore like his take on Frankenstein and how Swamp Thing was always like a wonderful version of that story. Then going throughout this journey to even discover how this even happened to him in the Swamp Thing movie. But I just hope that through hearing this, even though I'm sure for James Mangold, it's just like he wants to make the artful aspect of the film, that they will lean into more than just one film, more than just a Swamp Thing origin, and how we can get into the Rot, Anton Arcane, all of these supernatural aspects, and maybe even eventually Justice League Dark and characters like that. I really hope it would get to that point, but I just think James Mangold is thinking, well, I love the idea of making like a modern Frankenstein with Swamp Thing, still being very true to the comics, but I am not thinking about him facing off against the Floronic Man or Anton Arcane or anything like that. And as much as I love his description here, I still want to get into that. But I understand that you wouldn't necessarily dive into that in movie number one, and I wouldn't really want them to, because that would be too super traditional. Oh, hey, villain origin faces off against the antagonist, of whom is much, much bigger and longer format in the comics, but hey, he's already defeated by the end of the first movie. Anton Arcane, the Rot, it's all good. The green is prospering. That would be crap. That really would be. So hopefully maybe James Mangold is more tempted to do another Swamp Thing or carry on with his vision and exploring the lore of Swamp Thing even further after making the first movie, after getting that taste for it. But anyway, guys, that is all from me. I hope you enjoyed the discussion in today's video. Again, I read every single comment, so leave me your thoughts on any topic that we got into, and I'll try and reply to as many as I can. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me out. Seriously, in the algorithm, it helps catapult me out there a bit more. Consider subscribing if you are enjoying the content and you keep finding yourself coming back here. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.